Welcome to Haxby Shed and part 11, the final part of servicing this Harrison universal milling machine. And in this video you'll see me attempting both horizontal and vertical milling. First off, I'd like to show you some things people have given me, and then before we start the milling there's just one or two shakedown jobs to do. I hope you find it useful. You know, people can be very generous. My friend Tony gave me all of these. 1-inch bore cutters. Some are metric, some are imperial. I think I've got about 3 metric cutters. Got these big slab mills here. There are some chips on them, but to be honest, I probably wouldn't use these on this machine. I'd rather use the shaper or maybe a fly cutter, something like that. Some of them are brand new. Look at this. It says Moore on it, which I guess will be Moore and Wright. Don't know, actually. 5 inches by 1/2 inch by 1-inch bore. And then he gave me this arbor. It's a 40 int, so I'd have to machine it down. Could be a bit tricky. It's soft enough, but look at the size of these collars on it. I mean, they're absolutely huge. You know, they're long anyway, but look how thick they are. I don't know why they would make them so big. Maybe you can tell me. And I've got one small spacer there, but most of these are, you know, quite long. So I won't do anything with that straight away. I'm really on the lookout for an 1/30 arbor, 1 inch. Maybe somebody would like to swap one, but if not, you know, in a while I'll have a go at machining this. Look at this beastie, 6 by 1/2 by 1. So we're not short of 1/2 inch cutters then. That's at least 3. Just get them off this table. Try not to chip them against each other. That's a nice profile cutter. 1/2, 3/4 DOC. They've been in this box for a very long time, so you know they've had a good chance to chip before I got them. A viewer, Jason, sent me all these things. A Clarkson collet holder, Morse taper 3 with a 3/8 drawbar thread, 4 collets and all these cutters. The largest is 5/8, the smallest is 1/8. I'm sure he said that all these cutters were new. He wouldn't take anything for them, and he posted them at his own expense. Fantastic. I think this is possibly what they call a Clarkson Type C. I'm not certain. I've got another one which is Type S, I know that for sure. They were quite rusty, that's clear, but he explained to me that he'd cleaned them all up. Quite possibly I'll make a tang for this end, a screw-in tang, and then I can use this in the tailstock of the lathe, or I can use it on my big pillar drill press, because I've already got a Clarkson collet holder for this. Just a little milling machine odd job. You might have seen the video. I broke this pulley getting it off the motor because I was putting new bearings in the motor. This has been running on the machine a little while, but it has a little bit of a wobble on it. Some of that is because of the machining that I did to extend the motor shaft, but anyway, I figured out that if I put a second grub screw in here, it works in favour and I might be able to stop the little wobble it's got. So the grub screw I'm putting in is the same as this one, which is 5/16 UNC. So that's a 1764 tapping drill, so Google tells me, which is about 6.75 millimeters. Well, that's reassuring. They have actually sent 5/16 UNC grub screws. Well, they could be 5/16 Whitworth for all I know, but they're supposed to be UNC. Nearly, anyway. Well, that was easy enough to do. Both of those clamp onto the keyway. That's where I welded it when I broke it, trying to get it off. Well, I think that's a bit better. I've adjusted the belts as well, but as somebody said, these are quite awkward to adjust because you can't get to any of the bolts on the sliding plate directly, and you need to put a knuckle on your socket to get to them. You know, up against a wall, it's a bit tight. I don't want to flood the entire base with coolant, so I've got this plant tray. Let's see if I can get it in. Oh, there we go. It can be a bit difficult. And then this pump will just sit in the bottom of there, but I'm going to put a Y piece on it because I don't want all the flow. I want half the flow to recirculate, really. Well, this might work, look. There's the Y piece there, so that'll just squirt back into the pond. I bought myself some semi-synthetic coolant, 204 HP. I think it comes from a reputable brand, but somebody had bought a barrel, I believe, and was just selling it off in 5-litre tubs. So I'm putting in half a litre in 7 litres, which I think is about 7%. Now I'll have to get myself a refractometer. They look a bit expensive, 15 to 25 pounds, but I think I'll have to go for it. I guess if I pour this down this hole, it should go into the tank at the bottom. And all over my shoes. It works. Needed a bit of encouragement to get it going. Here I'm supporting this shaft for this switch to try and knock this roll pin out. You can see the new knob I'm trying to put on. I'll have to pack it a little bit, and I'll have to figure out, you know, how to get the roll pin back in or something, or a screw. Haven't figured it out quite yet. Just using an Allen key as a punch. See if it's going to work. Maybe. There we go. That was easier than I thought it would be. I've managed to use some of this plastic sheet, probably from an old ice cream carton or something. A couple of strips, leaving this bent edge on, put it into the switch, pushed it on, nice and tightly, and it works. And I've actually put a restriction on that Y-piece bypass, so there's a bit more goes up the pipe. That should be starting. Way. That's alright, isn't it? And then I can increase it from up here. That'll be just the job. This is possibly the last thing to go on before we try some horizontal milling. I don't think it's going to be very successful. I think it's going to kink. It might be I need another bend on here, come round this way and then come off from there to make it easier, rather than having a double bend on this. Anyway, it can be an ongoing in-life improvement when we get to that point. You can see why we've got a coolant leak from this corner. This is just a blanking plate. At one time there was a brass fitting would have gone on there, and it would perform the same function as this, probably for the model that doesn't have the gearbox on the end here. Well, this plate's a bit too long, and this lid catches it, and I think it's just pushing it away from the table. So I'll shorten that and just reseal it. You can see where that gasket's come away in that corner. That's why it's leaking. I think I'll make a new gasket. That's the hole that's being covered up, look. It's as hard as anything and brittle, look. You know, these cloth or paper hole punches are great. Here's another milling machine odd job. Now you might have seen in part 3 me taking this off and cleaning this out. As I've been running the milling machine though, I've discovered that I get a kind of grumbling noise from this selector. You move it across, particularly this side, and it's fine to start with, but after a while you get this really deep grumble, and then you can put your hand on it and you can stop that. So what I've discovered is, actually, between there and this face, there's an interference fit of 0.5 millimetre, and the only thing that makes it free moving, if you like, is this rather clapped out gasket. So I bought a new gasket, or at least I bought the paper anyway, it'll be coming soon. 0.8mm and 1mm. We'll try that, see if it fixes it. But I can't see any reason why you'd have an interference fit with this shoe against the gear. That's how I worked it out on this bit of paper. I won't go through it, but you get the idea. All back on now. Without any gasket on, I offered this plate up with this lever across to the left there. It was pivoting like crazy, so it's obvious that the shoe was contacting the gear. And it was the same on this side. Pushing here, I had about 0.75 millimetre gap there. So I wasn't sure. When I'd measured it, I got a 0.6 millimetre interference with no gasket. So I thought about using 0.8 millimetre paper or 1 millimetre paper. Now I couldn't see why the shoes had to be that close to the gear. So I went for the 1 millimetre paper, and that gives me an allowance for a bit of compression. And it all moves very freely. I did a test to compare the oil that came out of this gearbox with the ISO 220 that I'd put in. And I did it by measuring how long it took for the oil to go through a large syringe, 100 millilitres. And the ISO 220 took 46 seconds to drain out, and the oil I took out of this gearbox took 18.5 seconds. And just by looking at ratios, it seems like the oil I took out was about ISO 88. Well, I'm putting ISO 100 in, so it's not far off what came out, because that ISO 220 was ridiculously thick, and in the cold it was just tripping the inverter on top speed. Oil in the lathe gearbox is ISO 68, and that's been alright for 52 years, and it's essentially the same gearbox as this. Just listen to this now. It's not in gear. It's like a different machine, just for the sake of 0.5 millimetre on that gasket. Take that head off and I can hear what's going on. That's about 2000 RPM. And that's about 1000 RPM. Carl was asking me about the bearing in this bracket here. Well, it's just a big needle roller bearing in a cage. I've had it apart to clean it. I'm not going to take it apart again, but you get the idea. And this is for a 27mm arbor, so the arbor that came with the machine. One good thing is, when I check the serial number on here, it matches the serial number on the knee, so I know this is the original bracket. Right, I'm building it up, but I'm going to come unstuck shortly, because I'm short of some bushes. I might have to make something. It's getting exciting, isn't it? Must go, I suppose, that way around. I'm not certain. I've loosened the arbor off to make this easier to get on. Oh, not so short as I thought. I've opened out a couple of big washers. You know, learning is expensive in terms of time and everything else. I've got this on the right way around now, the cutter. This is the right way for this bracket, by the way, with the bit that goes in on the outside. Just checked it in the manual. I guess I should tighten this before I tighten that. Learning is expensive. Right. Okie dokie. I'm going to start by cutting a piece of wood until I find my feet a bit with this machine. And here's a good reason. By the time these teeth touch this surface of this wood, this end is almost touching the bracket. Well, it's okay to make that sort of a mistake with a piece of wood. Wood's cheap. Right, here goes. Make sure it goes the right way, this table, when I start it. That's better. Yeah, that's alright. Lift the knee up. Just touch off, hopefully. That's it. Take it back. Put a cut on. What do you think it should be? One. Right, 4mm cut. 4mm. Engage table. That's very satisfying. Don't take this too seriously, it's just a bit of fun. Touch off. Wind back. Add cut. Let's go again for 4mm. 2, 4. Okay, engage. I've always wanted to do that. 16, 12, 8 on a 27mm arbor. Those are the three that I bought. Cost me about £55 for those three, but I just wanted some on a 27mm arbor. I've now got loads on a 1-inch arbor, but I need to modify the arbor because it's int 40 int, and this is 30 int. But anyway, there you are, end of the play. Before we try proper milling and then pouring coolant onto this thing, I want to make an improvement which was suggested to me by somebody who goes by the name of Fast Druid, and he was very kind to send me some pictures of where he had drilled a drain hole in the bottom of the knee. Now he'd done it when the knee was off, or at least this top section was clear, the saddle was off. I'm going to try and do it from underneath. It might not be possible. It's only about a 3mm hole, but he sent me a photograph with the position, which was in the centre and about a third of the way back from this side on the flat base at the back of the knee there. I may have to take this bracket off and the arbor to get the height that I need, but we'll try. Yes, we do. The drawbar on this one is self-extracting. Try not to drop the cutter off. That might do. Yes. This is the photo he sent me. It's portrait. I'm trying to keep the light off it. But I think you can see this is the base of the knee. And you might be able to see a hole there. Now I measure that across. When I zoom it, I can tell that that hole, by measurement, is 36% of the way across to my side, to my left, to the left here. So that's what we're shooting for. And that's the other picture that he sent me showing the inside, which is fortunately landscape, and you can see the hole there. So you've got to get it within that seam at the bottom. I'll do this in millimetres to find the middle because we've got millimetres at the top edge here. So it's 235, but let's say it was 240, that would be 12. So a fraction before 12 there. Okay, I mean that's not so critical anyway, but that's the middle in this dimension. You know, I've been at this machine all this time and I still haven't properly cleaned it yet. I'll get some of the crud off here so you can see what I'm doing. So this foot here is 40 deep. So if I take 36% of 40, so what did I say, 40, turn it on, 40 times 0.36 equals 14.4, so call it 15 mil. Now I don't know whether he's drilled straight up or at an angle. We'll just go for it. Okay, he said 2 or 3 millimeters, but I'm going to go big and make it 4. Hopefully this is lovely, nice cast iron. Hey, it's worked. Can you see? It's gone in at a funny angle. I drilled it straight and then it crept over at the end, but that doesn't matter. So, you can see the oil dripping out. Now what happens is the bottom end of this knee can fill up with coolant and all sorts, and then it can get into the bearing for this screw. So I don't really know why Harrison didn't put a drain in here. Anyway, thank you Mr. Fast Druid, that was very helpful. It's still dripping out down there, look. Can you see? Right, here goes, first cut. I don't really have any spare metal, everything I've got I have to pay for, so I can't afford to use a lot. Half a millimetre then. Too much, too much, too much. I need to change the table gears to slow this right down. I don't know why my calculation was so far out, but it is. Well, that's another schoolboy mistake dealt with. Let's try again. You wouldn't want to be in a hurry, would you? Here we go, same again. Half a millimetre. That table needs sorting out. Two cuts, 12 millimetres wide, 1 millimetre deep. I think if you weren't in a hurry, you'd be happy with that. You can hear how quiet that machine is now. I've just sped the spindle up a little bit. It was probably only about 45 RPM and I was aiming for 65. So I just wound it up a little bit on the speed pot. Right, my grandson's here to give me a lift with this head. I tell you what, I'll just lift the head, and if you can just lift the stand up for now. Yeah? Yep. So you put the stand on there for me. Thanks. Oh. Right, now if we wiggle it to the front here, yeah? Yep. If you can hold it, the two of us will just lift it up on there. Hang on. Okay, you ready? You got your fingers under?
Nearly.
Go on.
I can't get the... There we go.
Yeah, and just put it up on there, just gently. Up, 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 up. I need to get a crane organised for this sometime. We're on.
There we go.
There we are. Yeah, all right, that's great. Ugh, look at all the oil coming out. Good. Oh, it's all over the floor as well. Right, good. Thanks for that.
That's all right. Just let me know if you need anything else.
Yeah, okay. Cheers.
All right.
We've got Mr. Hammer Driller next door. As soon as the sun comes out. Looks about right. Oh, a bit more. Takes a bit of a fiddle to get this on, even with the stand. And also this taper seems to stick. It does now take a bit of work to get it unlocked when you're taking this thing off. Long screws in the top, short screws in the bottom. When I say short, 1.5 inch in the top, and I think it's 1 1/4 I've got in the bottom. I've taken this off again because I found that I could push this head against the machine body, but it wasn't going quite all the way, and I was finding it was taking a bit of force to clamp it up. And I remembered something that a viewer had said to me, who had warned me. If you look at those dogs, they're about 45 degrees. If you look at the dogs on that stub shaft, they're more or less straight up and down. And because there's so much travel on this lock, it's possible to clamp this up against the machine there, but those dogs are not engaged. Well, it's obvious this way. Look, I'm turning the machine pulley, the machine's in gear. But that's not turning, the head's not turning, even though there's only that virtually no gap. Now I'm happy with it, because that is absolutely flush against this. I can screw this drawbar for ages now, and also with the drawbar slightly loose, if I turn this, you hear the clunking. That's now telling me the drive dogs are engaged. It's so easy to make the mistake with that. I've had the sight glass from the rear gearbox and the milling head in vinegar for a few days, and I'm hoping that it'll clear it. It's a bit kind of mucky. They're only about £4 each, these. Well, it would be a plastic one, but I just thought I'd see if I could get the original cleared. It's a little clearer, but not that good. I might buy another. Actually, that sounds a lot better since I sorted out the grumbling on the main gearbox, so maybe that was the main problem. I've set this up with a 1/2 inch Clarkson roughing cutter high-speed steel. I'm going to move the table manually to start with, just to get a feel for where it should be in terms of speed. Spindle RPM is about 450, depth of cut is about 40 thou, so 1 millimetre. I'll set up the table gears now that I have an idea of how fast the table should move. Well, a 2 millimetre cut was about the limit, to be honest. With that one table nut, you could see the vibration on the table. But I can see why people are attracted to vertical milling, because it's so much quicker than horizontal milling. Well, that's it, folks. I declare this milling machine basically operational. It's only taken 11 weeks. Now, I've still got a few more things to do. I want to take this cover off and check the gears in here. It's quite rattly. There's probably nothing wrong, but I would just like to check it. I need to take the lump out of the table gearbox cover. I want to fix a few coolant leaks dripping off the table still. I thought I got that sorted, but obviously not. I'm going to look at putting a light somewhere on here, probably on the table switch box, to show me when the table motor's running. It's very quiet, this is quite noisy, so I can't really tell if it's running, and sometimes the switch doesn't take the first time I press it. And then, when I'm ready for it, I'm going to take the lead screw out of the table, straighten it, make a new nut for it in bronze, and replace the bearings that sit either side of that table nut. So that will be quite a big job. I'll wait a little while before I get round to that. Anyway, I hope this has been useful to you. Thanks for watching Haxby Shed. You know, I always record these introductions after I've already made the video, so I know what to say. And on one of them, it took me 27 takes. I kid you not. And this video itself has taken me about 6 hours to edit up. But I do it because I enjoy it. You know, it's my hobby. And even this bit of spontaneity, this is take 5. Have a great day.